When there had been a knock on my door, I had thought nothing of it. However, when I opened it and saw two police officers standing there with a frightened-looking 3-year-old girl, everything started to make sense. And with my husband away on one of his business trips, unable to explain himself, I couldn't believe what the officers were saying. How could my husband have hidden this dark secret behind my back? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. It was almost our 3rd anniversary since Isaac and I tied the knot. During that time, he would finally take some time off from his job, and we would have some quality time. He had told me he had booked a surprise trip for the two of us, and I had been totally enamored with the idea. Back then, I had no clue what rollercoaster life had in store for me. I didn't hear what the officers were saying at first. My eyes solely trained on the little girl. It wasn't necessarily because of the officers that were standing on my porch, but the fact that I could also notice the resemblance. My head began to spin, but deep in my heart, I knew I was confident that regardless of his secrets, he wouldn't betray me like this. "What can I help you with?" "Is Mr. Isaac Preston home?" the male officer asked. I furrowed my eyebrows at the statement. "No, he is away for a business trip." The officers hesitated, their expressions unreadable. "Your husband is listed as the emergency contact for her," one finally said, nodding towards the girl. The simple statement was a sledgehammer to my reality, cracking the foundation of what I thought I knew. "We'd like her to stay with someone familiar," the officer suggested gently. The girl's wide, scared eyes seemed to trust me already, and that trust anchored my swirling thoughts. The night offered no peace, only a bed of thorns as I wrestled with betrayal and bewilderment. Each time I closed my eyes, Papa echoed through the darkness, a whisper of treachery. Morning light broke through the clouds, weak but determined. Over breakfast, the girl's guard began to fall, piece by piece. "I'm Lily," she said, a soft declaration that held weight. It was in her laughter, the tilt of her head, familiarity wrapped in innocence. As the day unfolded, Lily's laughter became the soundtrack to my conflicted home. With each passing moment, Lily's presence fed the growing vine of suspicion in my heart, and I stumbled upon the locked drawer while sifting through Isaac's desk, an out-of-place enigma amongst his typically open files and clutter. It sat there, most likely filled with secrets. My fingers itched to pry it open, but without a key, it might as well have been sealed by magic. The more I searched for a way into the locked drawer, the more elusive the key became. Meeting with the authorities offered no help. The police and the social worker met my questions with apologetic shrugs, citing their stupid privacy laws, but pressed into a corner by my relentless questions. Michael's resistance began to crumble. He admitted to seeing Isaac with an unfamiliar woman, his voice a mixture of reluctance and concern. Each hesitant word he spoke felt like a weight dropping into my gut, the implications painting a picture I didn't want to see. Yet Isaac's dark secret still remained. I had ushered Michael out of my home. I need to think. Michael's confession was a concept so foreign, so jarring, that it threatened to split the seams of reality I knew. The need to confront Isaac grew with every thudding heartbeat, every tick of the clock. How could I reconcile this loving home we had built with the possibility of its foundation being rotten with lies? I tried calling Isaac repeatedly, my fingers numb as they tapped the familiar number. Each attempt was met with the digital void of his voicemail, the mechanical tone of it mocking my desperation. I left no message. What could I have said? Instead, I tried calling some of our mutual friends. Most didn't answer until finally someone picked up. The drawing showed a family, stick figures with wide smiles. One figure stood tall and familiar, a man with Isaac's characteristic curly hair. My heart lurched, the paper trembled in my grasp. The intimacy of the portrait, the connection it implied, added a visceral depth to the mystery that my logical mind struggled to dismiss or understand. I turned the paper over again, and there it was, love, Lily written with the innocence of a child who knows nothing of betrayal. That Lily's life was entwined with Isaac's was unmistakable now. The timeline I had of our life together, so clear and unbroken, now seemed a fiction disrupted by a child's simple signature. Lily's existence was not just a sudden eruption into our lives, it was a vein that ran deep, perhaps as far back as before her birth. My marriage, once solid, now felt as if it had been built on shifting sands. However, something inside of me, something hopeful, said that all these accusations were wrong. The image, once unseen, could not be forgotten or unmade. It stood as a testament to a life parallel to the one I lived, one where Isaac was not just my husband but a figure in a child's drawing. The shock was a cold wave, recasting the man I slept beside in a light so alien it was as if I were waking up to a stranger's face each morning. His confusion was a tangible thing, almost innocent, as if he truly had no idea who Lily was. "What is she doing here?" he asked, with a perplexed furrow in his brow that I knew all too well. It was the same look he gave when facing an unexpected problem at work. But this was no business issue. This was our life splintering before our eyes. I was torn. The man before me was the one I had vowed to trust in all things. Yet how could I reconcile this oath with the withdrawals, the locked drawers, the whispers of a double life? And his denials rang in my ears, vying with the silent scream of evidence that had accumulated in his absence. To trust or to doubt, I truly was unsure what to do. Standing there with the threads of my married life fraying in my hands, I knew a decision loomed over me. Should I accept Isaac's bewildered denial or press on in search of an elusive truth that might tear everything down? Isaac shared his part, his voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted to tell you, Anna. How could I break a promise to a family in need?" He spoke of the vows he made to guard her independence, to be her silent benefactor, promises that now laid heavy between us. I saw the cost of his commitment, a silent burden carried on the shoulders of his integrity, 3 souls bound by a web of concealed truths. The silence was a canvas for our thoughts, and in it, we confronted the consequences. I was afraid, Isaac's sister-in-law murmured, voicing her fears of judgment of her daughter's uncertain future. As I listened, the final walls of my heart crumbled, and I understood her vulnerability. There was a breach in trust, a rift that we had to mend. "We'll move forward," I said, reaching out to both of them. Together, and as we began to untangle the knots of our past misunderstandings, we planted the seeds for new beginnings, for a family united not just by blood, but by the choices we made to love and to understand. And with a mediator guiding us, we navigated the tender intricacies of our situation. "Let's consider what's best for Lily," they suggested, and so we did. Each of us voiced fears and hopes, the conversation a mosaic of concern and love for the little girl who connected us. We talked of shared weekdays, weekends, and the patchwork of care that might become our norm. It was clear that love for Lily was our common thread, and with each spoken thought, we wove a stronger, more colorful tapestry of family life. We reached a tentative agreement, a plan that felt like the first brushstroke on a blank canvas. It promised Lily a home with us, laughter in the halls, and the continued embrace of her mother's presence. It wasn't just an agreement on paper, it was a pledge from our hearts, a commit to shepherd a little girl through life with all the love we could muster together.